All right, everyone. Hopefully you can all see us and hear us and we can get started. We are here today for the medicine webinar. What I'm going to do is a little bit of housekeeping before we go too far. First things first, if somebody could pop in the chat bar just to let us know if you can see us and you can hear us, just so that we make sure we're not talking to no one. That would be great. Yep, you can see us. Awesome. I would also just like to ask if you can all keep your cameras and your microphones off. So maybe just check that now. Just means while we're presenting, we can eliminate any background noise, makes it a little bit easier and smoother for us to kind of go through the presentation. That doesn't mean we don't want to hear from you though. We really do. And if you've got any questions, we encourage you to ask them in the chat function. Lucky enough, we've got my colleague Chelsea here today. You can't see her, but she's going to be sort of manning our chat and making sure if you do have any questions, she'll be giving you that information. So please feel free to pop that in the chat. If there's anything for some reason we can't answer today in this session here, we can definitely sort of either point you in the right direction or stick around at the end and we can maybe answer something a little bit more personal as well. We'll probably be here for about 15, maybe 20 minutes. We'll see how we go. We'll try and stick to that time frame. But if you could, yeah, stick around and join us. Here's some background noise. Might just see if someone needs to be muted there. Yep. If there is anything you can't hear, if you have any audio issues, unfortunately there's not too much we can do right here and now to solve that. But again, let us know. We can either put you in the right direction to get this webinar at another time, or we can help you out with that information too. The information today is for domestic applicants. So if you're an international student, please don't switch off. There's a lot of stuff about the course and the content that is still relevant, but it's just the application information that is for domestic applicants. Again, if that's you, we can point you in the right direction for internationals as well. So with all that keeping out of the way, we probably should introduce ourselves. My name is Caitlin. I'm the Access Project Officer here at Flinders, and I've got Hugh with me here today, who is a current student. And like I said too, we've got Chelsea, who you can't see, but is here with us as well, helping out to man the chat. So we'll sort of go through and give you some information and get going. All right, so what are we going to cover? We're going to talk about why study medicine at Flinders. We're also going to, sorry, meaning someone, we've got some background noise there. Awesome. We're going to talk about the pathways to medicine. We're going to talk about the course highlights and what you will study. Like I said, we've got Hugo here who's going to give us his student experience with someone that's actually studying right now. And we're going to go a little bit into the entry requirements, how to apply, and sort of touch on that a little bit too. So why would you study medicine at Flinders University? There's lots of good reasons. I guess hopefully more than anything, it's something you're passionate about and interested in and wanting to study. The other thing to look at is that we are #1 in Australia for full-time employment. So it means graduates are getting out there and able to sort of start working full-time. We're #1 in SA for that as well, and we're also #1 in SA for teaching quality in medicine. So something pretty great to be proud of for us here at Flinders. I guess the other thing is it's a really great opportunity that prepares you for the industry, and it's a really meaningful kind of place to work and industry to work in, and something that pretty much couldn't be more relevant at this time at the moment. Really important thing that we're all really needing at the moment. So there's a couple of reasons why you might want to study with us here at Flinders. We're going to talk a little bit about the pathways to medicine. So I guess I will sort of couch this with that this is obviously sort of general information and we'll give you some of that stuff. I would recommend anyone that's really considering this pathway seriously to do your research, get in touch with us. There's so many ways you can have contact with us. We'll give them to you at the end as well. Please find out more, talk to us more. We're really happy to sort of help you and support you through this process. There are essentially, I guess, two main pathways into medicine. So if you are looking at Year 12 entry, so if you're a current Year 12 student, sort of we're talking to you at the moment, you are going to be looking at this one here. So Year 12 entry, we're going to look at your Year 12 subject results plus your UCAT to get you into the 2-year clinical science, so the Bachelor of Clinical Sciences. and then you've been moving into that 4-year Doctor of Medicine. Yeah, so that's the sort of first pathway if you're looking at that straight from school. The next one is that you are using graduate entry. So that means you complete another undergraduate degree. So either you come from year 12 into a different degree, or you might have a slightly different pathway, but you'd been completing a graduate, an undergraduate degree and looking at what we call graduate entry. So if that's your pathway, you're going to be looking at taking the GAMSAT as well as an interview. So I guess just want to stress here, year 12 students that come through that pathway don't do the interview. If you're coming as a graduate entry, you are looking at that interview, and you're also looking at your GPA, a weighted GPA. Now, Hugo, your entry was the graduate entry.
Yes.
You happy to talk a little bit about what that looked like for you?
Yep. So for me, I completed year 12. Then I did have a year off in between uni, but after completing year 12, I went and studied a Bachelor of Medical Science, which is undergraduate degree for 3 years. Upon completing that and sitting the GAMSAT, I then applied for the interview process, was given an interview, and after that, combining my GAMSAT score, my GPA, and the interview progressed into medicine. So I'm a first year Doctor of Medicine student now.
Awesome, perfect. So yeah, those are the two, I guess, main pathways. We've also got some information on the screen there about Indigenous pathway schemes as well, which again, we could give some more information if that's an area that applies to you. I'll talk a little bit more about those two entry pathways over the next couple of slides, but that gives you the sort of first little bit of information. Like has just popped up on the screen there, both of these are really competitive to get into. So obviously medicine is a pretty competitive area. We're going to give you a little bit more information on that over the next couple of slides to give you some of that information so you know sort of what that might look like. So year 12 entry, like we're saying, is going to be looking at your subject results, so taking that 90%, as well as UCAT results, so that'll be a 10% weighting, as well as a few other things to keep in mind. There is no interview requirement for year 12 entry, so that can be something that people stumble on and maybe get a bit confused about sometimes, have heard there's an interview, but if you're coming straight through that year 12 pathway, there isn't an interview. There is no prerequisite year 12 subjects. So there's nothing in particular that you have had to study. Obviously, there are a couple of areas that could be useful preparation. So it might be helpful, but you can certainly survive without them. You cannot do an internal transfer into this course. And also it really is just looking at your ATAR and your UCAT. Some of our alternative entry pathways aren't considered for the Doctor of Medicine. So just keeping that in mind. Again, it really probably is best to talk about your individual circumstances, either with us, maybe someone that supports you at school, and just make sure you're sort of ticking every box and finding out every bit of information and every bit of advantage that you might have. Make sure you're aware of that, or if there are things that you don't qualify for as well, make sure you sort of know where you're sitting, I guess. It's really important for that as well. We do also have some sub-quotas for rural remote, some Indigenous student sub-quotas as well. And I guess too, the thing we've got up on the bottom there is that there's about 26 places. So in 2020, we had over 1,600 people apply. And obviously there's only that sort of quite small number, so that 26 number of places. So I guess, you know, not to scare anyone or, you know, tell you that you shouldn't do it, but we just want to make sure people are aware that it is a competitive course, and that even if you do fantastically well and you don't get in, it doesn't mean you haven't done a good job or haven't done a great job. It just means it is just so highly competitive and there are lots of people trying to get just that really few amount of places. But yeah, don't be put off by that. And again, feel free to talk to us about your individual circumstances. And also you can sort of look at that graduate entry too, which we'll talk about next. So the graduate entry, which means you've come to university, so you've come maybe from school or from somewhere else, you've done that first degree, which for you, Hugo, was?
Medical science.
Medical science, perfect. So you completed that and you're looking to get in, so something we call postgraduate medicine. What that means is that you've sort of, done one degree and sort of done some work and got something called your GPA, which if you're not aware is your sort of average of your results. And you're looking at taking that next step into the Doctor of Medicine. Now, there's a really fantastic admissions guide that you can access. It's fairly easy to find on the website. We can also provide that link as well. That can sort of really give you that information. It steps you through what that looks like and the sort of boxes you need to tick, all that kind of stuff if that's the pathway you're looking at. I guess the thing we like to talk about is there are those 4 degree areas that you can see on the screen where there is 25 places reserved. Yep. So essentially that does increase your chances of being successful. Again, similar to the Year 12 entry, this is still a really competitive field, but certainly something to work towards. So if you're thinking about the Doctor of Medicine as your pathway, those 4 degrees up on the screen might want to be your sort of top backups.
Absolutely. Yep. And just with that, you're not just refined to those 25 reserved places. So think of it as a couple tiered approach. So if you're in one of those 4 degrees, you're considered in that area. But if there are 25 people who are a bit better than you and are taken for those spots, you're then considered in that 75% of Flinders Uni students. So it flows down the line. So you've really got 2 categories that you could slip into if you were to do an undergrad at Flinders.
Yeah, perfect. That's a really good way of explaining it. So you kind of give yourself that first round chance and the second round chance, and then there's still a portion of places available for sort of any degree as well. So you're still kind of almost at third chance as well. That you can get in for. So if you're not completing one of those 4 degrees there, that doesn't mean you can't apply for this. It does sort of higher your chances and also provides you some useful sort of background knowledge, that kind of thing. Yes, good preparation.
Yeah, that's why those degrees have been put into a reserve place, because a lot of students who come from those degrees do quite well when progressing into the Doctor of Medicine because of the background knowledge they have. Yeah,
absolutely. So it kind of gives you that grounding, that foundation to make success a little bit more achievable when you do take that next step. Awesome. Hopefully that all made sense. I know that's a lot of information and numbers, but hopefully you're still with us while we talk about some of the course highlights. So if you actually, get into this course and start working towards becoming a doctor, there's some really fantastic things. Some project-based learning. I won't read everything on the screen, but early patient contact. So you get to start really having some interactions with patients, some electives. Obviously, at the moment, it's got international rotations at the moment on the screen, which that's going to look a little bit different for the time being as we kind of go through this COVID stuff and figure out what's happening. Research, if that's a passion for you, there's opportunities for that. So a whole range of things. A little bit more information about what you might study. So we could probably spend, a couple of hours talking about all the different things you could study, but I'm sure you all have other things to do, maybe some Netflix to watch, or, we all want to eat lunch at some point, I'm sure. But a little bit of a taste, I suppose, is some of that stuff. So molecular basis of life, some legal and ethical aspects of care. We were actually talking about that a little bit this morning. Some of the health issues, so some communication stuff and, the skills part of things. So a huge range of things. My big tip, and I would say this about any degree that people are interested in, if you want to know what you're going to study, it's not a secret. It's on the website. It's fairly easy to find.
It's all laid out there for you. Yeah. You can look at all of these. And just to clarify, these are for the undergraduate degrees before you go into the Doctor of Medicine.
Yes, absolutely. So that would be my big tip. Go online, have a look at the website. There's a little yellow button on the screen that you can usually find that will say, look at the study plan. And that will open up. Like you say, every year, every topic, you can go in the topic and even look at what it looks like. You can look at how many lectures are attached to that subject. You can really find out lots and lots of information. That would be my big kind of hot tip, I guess I talk to about lots of prospective students, is that go and have a look, find out what it really looks like for each year, even where it's based. Yeah, pretty much everything. No secrets around that, but there's some pretty exciting sort of topics that you could be looking at and having a look into. I guess what we sort of start to look at in that is that those first 2 years, you're looking at mostly university-based sort of study and subjects, that kind of thing. I will say that for us here at Flinders, that happens, it's attached to the Flinders Hospital. So we're really lucky here. We're sort of right there. There's even an underground tunnel, so you don't have to deal with the traffic. You can go through what I think is a little bit of a spooky tunnel, but it's a pretty good, nice, quick and easy way to get across, and you do actually start doing your learning sort of on site in the hospital as well. So it's really great that we've got that here. And then when you sort of get a little bit further down the track, so years 3 and 4, looking at, more of that clinical side of things. Yeah.
That's it. Really, the first 2 years is to solidify knowledge and learn everything about the body. And by year 3 and 4, you'll still be reviewing that in the background, but it'll be more applying that to your everyday situation in the different sort of clinical fields.
Yeah, absolutely. Perfect. So that's some of the general stuff about what you might study, but I guess something we've got really great here today is Hugo, who's actually doing it and can tell us what it looks like. So we might get to hear Hugo's story. I guess starting with, what made you choose medicine?
So for me, I always liked my sciences. I found them quite interesting, but medicine always is a big challenge, so I did put it off. But I grew up in a small country town, so I had to come up to Adelaide for major appointments, and one of my younger sisters was born premature, and she had to go up to Adelaide for an appointment with the paediatrician to check she was developing properly and I went to my mum and found it really fascinating what the doctor was doing and performing the procedures, and so that was a part of it, my fascination. But the other side was how relieved my mum was after the appointment. She was able to, my little sister was able to be checked out. She could see that she was okay, she was developing, and that fear and stress was alleviated. And I felt like I really wanted to be that help to the community and through problems like that. So that's what led me to do it. This was late year 12. Before that, I had a school-based apprenticeship as a carpenter, or I was going to go off to the mines as a geoscientist, and then eventually come back to the farm. So it was a late stage decision, but it's the sort of thing, medicine attracts life, and you'll find that when you get in one day, that you have people from law and engineering and arts and computer science. Like it's a very versatile field. Not everyone's from the same base. So that's why I chose to study it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like it came from a really caring place, I guess, because it is definitely a caring profession about people and helping and all that kind of stuff. And I guess since you started and you've sort of got into it a bit more, what's been one of your favourite things or a highlight or something you'd like to share with students?
So highlight for me have to be the clinical skills sessions. So you're not just pushed out onto the wards, but you do have some training first. So you have some mock interviews. So one of the highlights that I find is the role playing. So you're trained to be a doctor from quite an early stage of history taking. So in small groups, you're sort of paired up. One of you's the patient, one of you's the doctor, and you go through asking the questions. And it can be a bit of fun as well. People put on accents or they hunch over. Or
a couple of secret drama students maybe in this field.
Some people get standing applauses for the stuff they do. But it really just it makes you feel like you're moving towards something. Like you've spent all those years studying, and then you're actually getting to sort of apply those skills and get a taste of what it's like. So that's a real highlight for me.
Yeah, fantastic. A bit of payoff maybe for all the hard work that possibly some of our viewers are going through today.
It's a great feeling to realise you're there. I mean, there's still a lot of work to go. Like it's still a long way. Like, it's a marathon, not a sprint. I'm only just in the door, but to know that you're there and you're now working towards something,
Yeah, amazing. And I guess too, if you were to give someone some advice, so you're saying that you sort of came to this quite late in year 12, and maybe some people came to it much earlier or maybe way further down the track and are just thinking about it now. For any of those people that are kind of starting to contemplate medicine, what would be your advice if someone's thinking they might be a student in the near future? What would you say?
I just really, really think about why you want to go into it. What drives you for it. You do need to have passion for it, and that's something for me. Because I came to it late in year 12 that I decided this, I made sure I could get the grades which would help me along the way, but I took a year off in between to I had to save some money before moving to town, but just to make sure I wanted to do, because it's definitely something that it's a long road. Like it's definitely not a sprint. It's a marathon, like we say. You've got your undergrad, which will be 2 or 3 years, and then you've got medicine itself, which is 4, and then you have your training after that to become a GP or a specialist, and all. So it's a long process. So just see if you've got that passion for it. And I mean, some people change their minds, and that's okay. You find often friends who were passionate and really wanted to be doctors, and instead they've gone down like a research line or a genetic line, or there's many options. So just think about why you want to do it and make sure it's a passion that you have. You
People out. That's another little myth buster I always like to talk about is, you know, once you're at university, they tell you you're all alone, nobody cares about you, nobody's going to, you know, ask you how you're doing. It's not exactly true. You definitely have to be more proactive and probably need to put your hand up and reach out for that support. But it's there. There's a whole range of people here that can offer that support.
That's just it. It's more you need to ask.
Yeah.
You're not going to be prodded, but it's always there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's one I like to talk about with students that haven't come to university yet is that, yeah, you're not all alone. There is options and there are people here. So do reach out if you do end up studying with us as well. But yeah, thank you so much. We'll keep going and, yeah, keep jumping into anything else, Hugo. But talk about the little nitty-gritty, I guess, a little bit more. So if you've sort of sat there and heard all this and thinking it really might be for you and you're sort of looking at that next step of applying, you want to look at, so the clinical science doctor of medicine there is no sort of guaranteed A-type entry because obviously there's a whole range of factors that go into that one. But if you're looking at some of those undergraduate degrees, so the 4 that we've talked about, which might be your first step, you're looking at health sciences sort of starting at about 70 and the Bachelor of Science Biotech is about up to sort of 85, 96, that kind of thing. Like I was saying, yeah, really look at that. Think about your preference list and some of those options as well, what that might look like for you. Like I said, a great place to start with this is the website. So I've got that down the bottom of the screen there. Have a look at that, start doing your research, start looking around. Look at those other courses as well, so some of those backups you might have in there too, so that you can sort of get a bit of an understanding of what you're looking at.
And if it's any consideration, your Bachelor of Medical Science and Bachelor of Health Science, they're both very similar, and they're actually quite similar to what clinical science students do.
Mm-hmm.
So the only real difference is that you have an extra year of study where you specialise.
Yeah.
So you will be studying similar things if you go into one of these fields.
Absolutely. Thank you. So moving right along, we at the moment here on campus have moved all of our learning online. So even the stuff that usually happens here on campus due to all the COVID restrictions is happening online. Now obviously things are changing a lot at the moment, but as of right now we're still doing that online. I don't know if you want to talk about how that's been for you so far.
It's an interesting experience. I mean, there's some things that we just can't do, and we'll have to do it to the end, like measuring blood pressures and that sort of thing. But it has been challenging at times, but it's really great that they've been able to do it and bring you together to learn still, because I mean the other alternative was not doing anything at all, and that just leaves a big hole. So it's really good that they've come to it. I mean, motivation can sometimes be a little low, realising that you're just going online to listen to a lecture instead of in person, but the academics have all tried to really support it and help with answering questions still. So it's challenging at times, but it's good. And some people thrive on it, though. So
yeah, absolutely. And obviously that's changing and we'll kind of keep progressing as those changes come in. But something to think about if you're looking at studying sometime soon is that could be online for a short term. But also, I guess, thinking that all of the support services that we were talking about, they've all gone online too. So all of that stuff that you would usually access here on campus and that hopefully you'll be able to access here on campus again soon is still there. There's still a whole bunch of people on the other end of the computer screen that can help you out and support you. Absolutely. So if you're nervous about that, just keep in mind that those things are still happening. Your lecturers and tutors and all that sort of thing is still
they're all still there. They're very good with answering to emails, and they were good at the beginning when it was all in person, but even more so now when they understand that's your only line of communication.
Yeah.
So they understand that.
Fantastic. So if you are really thinking that application might be coming up for you, you will want to be looking at the SATAC website. So that's where all of the applications for the South Australian unis go through. You kind of get a chance to register and sort of start that process. You have 6 preferences, so we always talk about putting your number one thing you want to do the most at the top. So not always, putting what has the highest ATAR necessarily, but putting your number one preference at the top. And again, even if you think that might be out of reach, making sure you've got that in there.
Absolutely. Yep. I put clinical science as my preference. I knew my ATAR wasn't that, but it was always worth a chance. and then you have your medical science and your health science and paramedics to fall back on as your preferences. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, I'm just muting you all again. We're getting a little bit more interference. But yeah, that's a really good point. Again, speak with us if you're unsure, and also consider that if you are looking at the graduate entry, there's a little bit of a different process. So again, find out that information and give us a call. There are a couple of dates to keep in mind that you want to be looking at. So if you're looking at mid-year now, the Doctor of Medicine isn't available mid-year, but things like health sciences are. So maybe you might be looking at starting that pathway now. You're looking at a closing date of the 1st of June. And also if you're looking at 2021, so if you're a current Year 12 student, that's what you're aiming for, 2021 entry, there'll be some dates published for later this year. But just keep that in mind, and then and just keep in mind there are some options for mid-year entry too. So again, the website gives you that information, or we can also give you that as well if you're ready to kind of get started and start that journey too. You can do that, you know, pretty soon, pretty quickly. But like I said, I think the number one sort of piece of advice, and what lots of our current students say, is do your research and find out your information, talk to the supports. Yep, that's a really common one. And there's a whole bunch of ways you can get in touch with us. So we've got an amazing admissions team here that you can talk to. You can either phone us if that suits you. You can book a phone appointment. So if you want to have a longer time to talk with someone, maybe talk about some personal things that are specific to you. Usually we offer them face-to-face, but again, at the moment, that's over the phone. If that changes, we can sort of let you know. There is online chat available, so you can jump on our website and have a chat session with someone. You can email if that's more suitable. So there's a whole range of ways you can get in touch, and really make sure you've got the right information, you know, and I guess getting it sort of straight from the horse's mouth as well. So making sure it's accurate and current, all that stuff that's really important. The other thing I will just note is that we do have a feedback form available for these webinars. So if you have any feedback to give, if there was more information that you would like, or anything that you want to let us know about the webinar in particular, please jump on there. We're really happy to hear it. We want to make sure we're delivering information that's useful and helpful. So really, if I can encourage you to jump on there and do that, that would be great. But I think that's about it for today. Like I said, if you've got any questions, we'll sort of hang around in the chat for a little bit longer. So feel free to ask us there, or use one of those many different ways that you can get in touch with us as well. If you want to talk, if something pops up later as well. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to turn off our mic and our video, but we'll be in the chat for a little bit longer. If you don't have any questions and you're sort of done with us for now, thank you so much for joining us. And hopefully we will see you around campus sometime soon. Thanks.